Welcome to my podcast with your host Emir. Today I'll be hosting one of my really well prepared and really talented about everything I knew technically, who is Zahid. So Zahid, let's get to know you first. You can mention about um your hobbies or how old are you? Like introduce
All
yourself.
right. Thanks, Yasat. At first, thank you for having me as a guest here. My name is Ahmed Zahid, aka AZY. I am mostly interested about tech, cars, and roundabouts at general. I'm 18 years old, and actually, we're at the same school with Asad.
Okay. So Zaid, as you know, now we're in a century of tech giants, and I'm not as much as you, but I'm interested in cars and the technology. So, can you mention us what actually the rank is going on right now? Like, where um, where the feature of cars is going?
Right. As you mentioned at first, I'm very well prepared for this conversation. I got a lot of notes here. I'm looking at them now.
Yeah.
Now the cars are mostly internal combustion engine cars. They're powered by diesel or they are powered by gasoline, and there are some hybrid cars. Hybrid means there's an internal combustion engine, and aside from that, there is an electric engine too. Hence the name hybrid.
Okay.
Nowadays, there are some EV companies, electric vehicle companies such as Tesla, Rivian, and also big automobile manufacturers like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, also trying to, you know, get into that EV industry with their cars like Mercedes EQC, Audi e-tron, and BMW has some concepts, but not a car that is on the roads right now. But also there's Jaguar, and the model
Yeah.
name is I-Pace. So there are electric cars like this, and the starter of this whole industry was Tesla at the first. Tesla still is one of the biggest EV manufacturers in the world, and uh, they started this business in America, in USA. Um,
Yeah.
we had first Roadster. Elon Musk revealed a plan, future plan in I think 2008, 2009, something like that, and he said, "I want to build a sports car for the rich people," and which is Tesla Roadster, and Tesla Roadster was a basically a Lotus. The chassis was Lotus, the suspensions was Lotus, everything
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
Lotus, but the engine and the batteries were Tesla. So that was the first car, and it was around $120,000, something like that. I don't know the price exactly. Then the plan included a car, a premium car like the Mercedes E-Class. Again, for the rich people, but it could, you know, it could also be a car for the not so wealthy but got money people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
Tesla Model S. And when the Tesla Model S launched, big automobile manufacturers like Mercedes, Audi, Jaguar, BMW, Toyota, Honda, a lot of them said, "Nah, this is not gonna work," and it worked. Oh boy, did it work! Then there were a lot of speculations like it's not gonna be fast, it's not gonna be durable, it's not gonna be stable. Electric cars, we don't know them. Electric engines, we don't know them. Our masters, our fixers, actually, who work in work in this business, repairers.
Yeah.
They didn't know it. They didn't know what an electric car is. what an electric engine is. And electric cars actually don't have transmission, only just one gear in the middle, and that is doing the whole job. But in the other cars, in normal cars, in the internal combustion engine cars, there's a transmission that has almost 9-10 gears in it, and people knew that. People
Wow.
was people was used to it. They knew it, but they didn't know the
Yeah.
EVs. So
So do you say that no one has ever expected someone to manufacture a car like fully functioning with
yes,
only electricity?
exactly,
So
exactly.
and turns out that Tesla can do that. But tell me a little bit more about the process of achieving the car fully functioning.
All right. So I gotta talk about the funding of the Tesla as a company. Elon Musk is the founder of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
company, and he had money before that. He made PayPal and sold the PayPal for around 1.5 billion dollars, which is a lot of money. And with that money,
Yeah, it is.
he founded Tesla, and he gave all his money to Tesla at the time. There was SpaceX. SpaceX was before Tesla. SpaceX is a space company, and it's the name. There was PayPal's money, there was SpaceX's money, and all that money went into Tesla's manufacturing, Tesla's production. The
Yeah.
design, the communications, the employees, everything. Uh, as I mentioned, the plan was there and it was going successful. First Tesla Roadster, then Tesla Model S. Then Elon Musk said, "I want a car for everyone, and they can buy it," which is Model 3, and that was like $35,000 when it launched. The base model was $35,000. He really struggled. Tesla as a company really struggled. You said no.
Struggle to sell it?
No, no, not selling. I'll give an example here. Mercedes is a
Okay.
company that manufactures cars for like what 100 years, maybe more than that, maybe 200 years.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a really well-established company, and it is known in the industry that Mercedes is a big car manufacturer, and you know there is a truth what we call politics and economy.
Yeah.
So not any one of them, big car manufacturers, I'm saying Mercedes, Audi, or BMW, not any one of them wanted a company that was just founded, 1 or 2 years. Just it has been 1 or 2 years. They didn't want a company like Tesla to overcome them, win the competition.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't want that, and that's where Tesla struggled. I'm not sure about that, but I even heard about some agents sent to Tesla, as employees, and
Really?
it could be real. It's kind of like a theory here, but it could be real, and
But I mean,
I would
I
believe
don't
that.
know. I mean, like I don't see any logical reason for the companies except Tesla to send agents to the company and try to supervise what actually is going on, blah blah. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, you have all the engineers and researchers. Like, you've got the money. You're really known brand all across the world, and why so be jealous?
Yes, but they don't know. As I mentioned before, they don't know the electric cars. They know nothing about them. That's the problem, and nobody even thought about doing that, doing an EV.
Ah, okay.
There's global warming, there's environmental issues we are facing with right now in the world, and a lot of people say EVs are the saviors for human being
Yeah.
to get out of this, global warming situation.
Yeah, I mean it's because of the reason that carbon emissions
Yes,
really
yes,
harm the environment.
yes. I'll come to that. There's a subject that's called the Volkswagen Dieselgate. I will come to that.
Yeah,
And when it comes to big car manufacturers, you're going with the Mercedes. I'm going with the Mercedes. They didn't thought about that. Making an electric vehicle. They didn't thought about that, and they didn't want Tesla to win the competition. So
overthrown them. Yeah,
they were jealous. They were scared, and they were just ignorant.
yeah,
So nobody really thought that Tesla would succeed, but they did. They sold the cars, and now there is a big like movement from everyone to develop to manufacture electric cars, and there are even startups like Faraday Future. It's Faraday Future founded in 2014, and the first car unveiled at CES 2016. And the company is named after Michael Faraday, engineer. And they started to hire the employees, the former employees of the Google, Apple, BMW, SpaceX, and Tesla. And they came up with a really good plan about Uber service.
yeah.
So what they gonna do is use autonomous cars to give a like a virtual Uber driver feeling to the customers. They were just gonna Uber the car, and autonomously the car will come and you will use it.
Yeah.
That was a really good plan. And again, the big car manufacturers didn't think about autonomous cars or self-driving. Now Tesla is the king about this. Yeah, we started the conversation with electric cars and where the industry is going, but autonomous cars and self-driving is a really important subject about the subject, because people want that too. They saw it in Tesla. The Teslas are going by themselves like crazy, and you can actually go up to speed.
Yeah.
So people want that too, and still Mercedes, Audi, and BMW struggles to deliver that autonomous car feeling. There's no self-driving such as Tesla in the
So
Mercedes department. So that's
what do you
really a big selling factor for the Tesla.
so what do you think actually lays behind the reason that behind the fact that Tesla could have Tesla has succeeded in developing self-driving and autonomous cars with electricity engines, but what actually did Audi, Mercedes, and BMW lack in this aspect? Like, why did not they develop something like that? Why didn't launch a car with those features that you have mentioned? What did they lack?
They were late. So why they were late? As I mentioned before, they weren't thinking about such thing. The gasoline is present, the diesel is present, and it will
Yeah,
be present for at least 100 years. And the cars were selling good. The cars were good. The cars were fast. Cars were luxury, and they were established brands and didn't want to go in a room and play a game they don't know, and that game is EV.
yeah.
They were scared. They didn't feel the need, actually. That's the main reason. They didn't feel the need. You
Like
know,
they were unaware of the fact that the petrol is going to extinct in some day. So they, I don't think they've thought about future. Like
yes.
They haven't planned for maybe 50 or 100 years, and that's a shame, I think.
Yes, and with Tesla's presence, they started thinking about that because Tesla was a competition and was a really uh, good competition, and they needed to develop EVs. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the industry for long. There are like emission standards all over the world. In Europe and in America, there are regulations about NOx. I mean, nitrogen oxide emissions.
Yeah.
And when there's you know, uh, these regulations and emissions,
Yeah.
they had to do it. Maybe if it weren't Tesla, the Tesla was never present. The Elon Musk was never born or died in some accident. Maybe we wouldn't see the electric cars coming from big companies. And
Yeah.
I think we gotta thank Elon Musk for this, for this change in the industry. And I will come to a subject that is that was so effective in the industry, and why big car manufacturers had to develop cars that had less emissions. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So the thing is Volkswagen Dieselgate. So diesels were always considered as slow, rumpy, noisy cars in America.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't like it. In USA, the diesel cars were only used in commercial vehicles like trucks.
Yeah.
The biggest use of them was trucks. But in Europe, the case was different. In Europe, everybody loved them because although they were noisy, they were rumpy, and they weren't so stable, the fuel consumption was really low.
Lover. Yeah.
So because of that, Volkswagen tried to get into US market with diesel cars, but they weren't loving it, and the regulations were really tight. So Volkswagen wanted to get into the American market because it was a big market. Volkswagen is selling cars in Europe, in China, in Japan, but one of the biggest markets in the world is USA, as you know.
Yeah, of course.
So they wanted to get in here. And what did they do is in I think 2006 there was a classified meeting about this this disaster of not being able to get into the American market, and they thought about what would happen if we made diesel cars that had less emissions, So they thought about that in 2006, but the first action was taken in 2012 or 2013. They made commercials like crazy, and a new engine was developed called the TDI, turbo diesel injection, and it used the common rail injection technology. I will not get into detail of that. It's
Okay. It's a little bit complicated.
Yes. And they made the TDI engine, and in commercials they said, yes, this is diesel, but it is quiet, it goes well, and the fuel consumption is low, and it does not harm the environment. That was their claim.
Is it used to harm that way? Okay.
That was their claim. And cars started selling in America. People started to buy it. People started to love it. And in 2014, West Virginia University, a group in West Virginia University, said, we want to get some cars from Volkswagen, and we want to see this technology. How did they do it? We want to know it so we can help our other manufacturers developed diesel cars like this.
Like with less emission, right?
Yes, less emission. The TDI engine was already so low on emissions, and
Yeah,
why not Mercedes or Audi or Jaguar has these has this technology. So that
yeah.
group in that university made a research, and they uh, they saw that when the car is on dyno, so you know what dyno is? It's a
I have heard, but I don't know exactly.
it's a driving simulator. There are like rollers under the wheel, and it turns so
Yeah.
the acts like it goes on the road.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
When they tested the TDI engine cars in those dynos, the emissions were good. Emissions were under the limits, and they complied with the regulations in USA. But they did also a test on the road. So when the car was actually going, not on the rollers, not on the dyno, the car was actually going, and they tested it, and they saw that the emissions were high as 40 times.
Really?
Yes. Let's say the
Wow.
emission in a mile is 1 gram, but in the road it was 40. And there are
Wow.
cases where it goes up even to 70. And that is a really high number. So,
It's way higher.
yes. And they thought, all right, there's something wrong about this. The M&M seems something's wrong. I can feel it. And they fiddled with the ECU. ECU is the brain of the car.
Car.
Um,
Yeah.
And it, basically administrates the car. All of the actions and other stuff
Yeah, yeah.
are bound to ECU. And what was happening was, in real, the car was sensing that it is on a dyno, it is on a roller, and it is not changing places. The DPS detects it. It is, stable, but moving. And when the
Wow.
car was on dyno, the ECU sets the exhaust system and the engine to lower the emissions. So the performance was dropping while it's on the dyno, while it's on the roller. The performance was dropping, but the emissions were lowering. And when the car goes in the inspection, the yearly inspection,
Yeah.
it's on a dyno, emissions are good. But on the road, the case is different. And that group in West Virginia University proved that and said to Volkswagen. They did hundreds of tests to, be certain about the situation. They said to Volkswagen, there's something like this. Volkswagen rejected it at the first time, but then they said, yes, we use a software that lowers the emissions on the dyno, but actually emissions are way higher, like 40 times or 70 times higher on the road. Then
So just because they wanted to get in the market of US, they just programmed a software that
lowers the emissions.
actually lower the emissions. So I mean that's really bad.
Yes, that was really bad, and the consequences were bad too. So in USA, Volkswagen had to recall 500,000 cars, and they admitted that there is this software in cars in 500,000 cars. Yes, we did it. Said that Volkswagen said that they are sorry. Then the researchers came up, and the result was in the entire world, there was 11 million cars that had this software on them. Then the CEO of Volkswagen resigned. Police was going to the Volkswagen headquarters and getting all those papers, all those researches, and actually getting those people in custody. Then Volkswagen diesel was prohibited in USA, so it was a step back. It was a real step back.
Yeah.
Then in Europe, in the other side, in the other end of the spectrum, in Europe, 8 million cars were recalled. And at that time, Volkswagen was the first company. Sorry, I'm rephrasing it. Volkswagen was the biggest automotive company in the world. But after that, after this Dieselgate, the Toyota was the first. So Volkswagen lost $18 billion. Yes, you heard me right.
$18 billion.
Yes.
Holy.
And then Volkswagen CEO in the USA said the administration of the Volkswagen didn't know about this. Just one or two engineers thought about it, and this was even a bigger scandal. They made a diesel engine with a tricking software, and the administrative didn't know about this.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, that was really bad. Then there's a standard, there's a regulation called the Euro 5, Euro 4, Euro 5, Euro 6. Now we're in the phase of Euro 6. At the time there was Euro 5. Euro 5 is a standard that affects the development process of the engines. So they go to Mercedes, Volkswagen, and they say you gotta develop your engines for Euro 5.
Yeah.
So and the diesel engines of the Volkswagen were not complying with the Euro 5 standards, and that was a scandal too. And which engines were that? From 2009 to 2016, there were Jettas, Golfs, Audi 3s, Volkswagen Beetle, Passat, Volkswagen Touareg, Porsche Cayenne, Audi Q7, Audi A6, A7, A8, a lot of cars that people love to drive. And they use those diesel engines in those cars. Then in
The diesel cars, diesel engines, right?
Yes, diesel engines. And
Okay.
in 23 September 2015, Volkswagen's interests were 10% lower. Then at the same day, BMW and Mercedes dropped 5%. All of the automotive industry were in a crisis. It was a really bad time. Volkswagen's sales, especially in America, dropped like 25%.
Wow,
so they
that's
were
really huge.
losing money. That was bad. They tried to do something with the diesel engines to gain more money, but that was not the situation. So Volkswagen. Then as of 25 October 2016, Volkswagen bought all of the faulty cars from customers, and they gave them money. That was good, but they had to do this because people didn't know about that. People didn't know that a diesel engine has a tricking software in its ECU, and I didn't even know about that. There are people who don't know what a transmission is, for example.
Yeah.
And cars were recalled, cars were bought, and the tricking software was removed, then put out on the sale again. Then in the whole world, this was a really big scandal, and it changed the industry forever. This Dieselgate is one of the main reasons we're seeing EVs now, electric vehicles, and even Volkswagen now leading towards the EVs. And Bosch, the company that manufactures dishwashers and laundry machines, now develop platforms for electric cars. So they're building a variable variable platform architecture, as Faraday Future, the company Faraday Future we're using. That platform is developed by Bosch, and Bosch will sell it to companies such as Mercedes, Audi, and Volkswagen, doesn't matter, and
Yeah.
they can put their own engines, put their own bodies, put their own interior, and develop or manufacture a car. So even Bosch is doing that. As I said, this Dieselgate's changed the industry forever, and that's actually I think in favor of us, because it helps the global warming situation. It helps the environmental issues we are having. And
Yeah, it's way much better than the past ones we had.
yes,
Everyone knows that the petrol is going to extinct in a few decades, and every tech company should, I think, develop on let's say manufacturing electricity powered engines or products,
yes,
so that we have better world.
yes. And you said something about technology companies should help the car companies to develop electric engines, electric cars.
Yeah.
Tesla actually said when they released the Tesla Roadster, the first car, they said we are not a car company. We are a tech company, and we want to help people. We want to help companies. We want to help manufacturers. We want to help governments, and we want to kind of like they said, kind of like we want to save the world. And
Yeah.
they're actually doing it. When you see there's like a lot of cars, and even Tesla is trying to manufacture trucks, like big trucks that deliver huge amount of
Products. Yeah.
products from land to land. Tesla's even trying to do that, and that is really good. And Tesla said we are a tech company and we will do the things in our own way. We are not a car company, so we can develop, manufacture cars, engines, and software, and nobody can say anything to us. That is actually good, and again in favor of us. So if you come to a conclusion, yes, Volkswagen did a very bad thing with putting tricky software in the ECUs, but also we gotta thank them, because now the industry is not on internal combustion engines, petrol powered engines, but the industry going to a place where all the production lines in the factories will be electric vehicles, and that is good.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know. We gotta
Volk-
if you gotta thank the Volkswagen or like swear at them, but at least the conclusion is good.
yeah, it's good. Like Volkswagen selling tricky cars to US actually triggered Tesla to take the let's say take the chair. I mean, like be on the
Yes.
top
Yes.
and lead all the companies towards a bright future with EV cars. Actually, EV technologies, like
Yes, right. Because not just EV cars, electric could be used in anywhere, like any industry, not just cars. Maybe we'll see planes that run with electricity. We don't know that. We could.
yeah. I mean, it's possible, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Nobody would thought 100 years ago we would see electric cars on the roads, but now we are seeing them, and it's actually not that old. Like Tesla is a company that's been around for around 10 to 15 years. It is new.
Yeah, it's really young,
Yes, it's really young.
newborn baby.
Yes, exactly. And there are like companies, as I said, Faraday Future, founded in 2014, and there is Rivian, and it's also a USA-based startup, Rivian, founded in 2009. And actually, Ford and Amazon invested in total $1.2 billion to Rivian. Rivian is a company that manufactures and develops electric cars, electric vehicles. And they say Rivian will be the worst nightmare of Tesla. I don't know Uh, I don't know if it's that true or if it will be true, but uh, they say that. And Rivian is actually on the trend right now. The world's trend is SUVs and compact crossovers. Yes, there are sedans,
Yeah,
there are
yeah, yeah.
hatchbacks, but SUVs are more likely to sell in showrooms than hatchbacks or sedans, especially in USA. In Turkey, the sedans are still selling, like Peugeot 508 and Mercedes C-Class, E-Class,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Volkswagen Passat. It sells like crazy. But Rivian is on the trend and developing a truck and a full-size SUV, especially for the American market, and people love it. People really give money to it. As I said, it's still a startup, so they're actually accepting investments, and it it really gets a lot of money. And when you think about that, it's really good. A truck that has 700 horsepower. A truck that has 700 horsepower and goes to 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3 seconds.
In 3 seconds?
Yes, a truck that a full-fledged
It must be a
truck.
joke. Like, it must be really a joke. I mean, I can't even like
Imagine,
I mean,
imagine.
that's insane.
Yes.
I mean, in 3 seconds, it can go up to like from 0 to 100.
Yes.
Damn.
And that is like supercar category, the
Yeah, I mean, in
Lamborghinis, the
three.
Ferraris, the sports car of the Audi, for example, R8. They go in 0 to 100 in like 2.5 and 2.8, 3.2, I don't know, seconds. And like a truck,
Oh my goodness.
a truck that you can tow a trailer behind you has 700 horsepower and goes to 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3 seconds. That's the
And it is electricity engine, right?
Yes, that's one of the benefits of the electric cars, because the torque is instantaneous. In internal combustion engine cars, when you rev the car, when the revolution goes higher, the torque is higher, the horsepower is higher. For example, let's say you are driving a Volkswagen Polo. Let's say it has
Yeah.
90 horsepower and 100 newton meters of torque. That's not the case. That's not always the case. When the engine's revolution goes up to like 5,000, then you get the full 90 horsepower and that 100 newton meters of torque. When you go at slow speeds, or you're not using the throttle fully, using gas pedal fully, you're not always
Yeah.
getting that performance. But in electric vehicles, the torque and the horsepower
You always
is
get that
always there.
performance,
Yes,
right?
yes, you always get it. It's always there. When you press the pedal, the 700 horsepower and all that torque
Fully
is
functions,
on your
right?
foot. Yes,
Wow. So
and that
you
is
claim
one
that
of the reasons. Yes,
you actually claim and prove the fact that electricity engine cars are really high in functioning with fully performances, like fully future. Like for example, for now, you buy a car with let's say 200 horsepower, but if you don't push the gas pedal to the
to the limits.
like to the limit, you can't get that. But if you would have the electricity engine car, so you're gonna be able to make your car function with
All that
limit
power.
performance. Wow.
Yes. As I said, that's a really good benefits we have from the electric cars. And there's Formula E. There was
Yeah.
Formula One for like, I don't know, 50 years, 60 years, maybe even more than that. But in the recent years, we had Formula E. E stands for electric. And if electric engines didn't develop this much power, the Formula wouldn't make a race called Formula E. Like even the sports companies like Koenigsegg, like Ferrari, like Pininfarina, uses these electric engines. Pininfarina is a design house based in Italy. Actually, they designed the TOG, the Turkish vehicle. The Pininfarina is the
Yeah.
designer of that. Pininfarina has their own car called Battista, I guess. It could be wrong. I couldn't be sure right now, but
Okay, no worries.
I think it was Battista. That Pininfarina Battista has wait for it, 1,200 horsepower, and it can go up to 0 to 100 in 1.9 seconds. It's a sports car. It's light. It's fast, and it's electric.
Did you say 1,200 horsepower?
Yes, and like that's anti-wicked. Maybe if you tune it, go to Maslak and
Oh my
and
goodness.
make a few adjustments to the engine, to the brain of it. Maybe you can even get more power than that.
Wow.
I like electric, but as a petrol head, I consider myself as a petrol head, not an EV head yet. Yes, I love electric cars and love the features of the electric cars, but still I would prefer internal combustion engines because you got sound, you got
I
a
mean,
feeling.
yeah, you have that feeling, but in electricity car like EV, you can't get like you can't feel as if you're like driving the car, like feeling into it. But
In electric vehicles or other car?
no, in EVs, you don't get that feeling. Like
Yes,
it's
yes.
all like there is no sound, no action, like
It
everything
feels
just
like it's virtual.
yeah, it's virtual car.
Yeah, in everybody knows if you're interested in cars, you'll know there's a program called Top Gear in
Yeah,
UK, and in that show actually, in Top Gear show, Jeremy Clarkson says they're just the electric cars are toys with batteries, and he's right.
yeah, he is. But how many years do you think would all the people get used to EVs? Like, for example, now
That's really
we have lots
yes.
of petrol heads, not much
Hmm.
EV heads, but how many years do you think would it take to be on the market?
That's a really controversial question, and it's been thought a lot actually. The main drawback with electric cars is range. You know,
Yeah,
for example, there's Jaguar I-Pace, and the range is 470 kilometers. In Audi e-tron is a SUV, and its range is up to 417 kilometers. And I'm saying up to. There are models with 250 kilometers of range.
yeah,
And when we look at the Mercedes EQC, the range is 420 kilometers. So the range is lower, and the time to fill up the batteries, get years into them, is a lot. If you're at home and if you're using the plug that you use to charge your phone, it can take like 12 hours to charge. And yes, when you're the supercharger like Tesla supercharger, they charge like Model 3 in I guess 40 minutes, 0 to 80% in 40 minutes. And 40 minutes is a lot. When you think about an internal combustion engine, you go to the petrol station and you fill it in like 5 minutes. You
yeah.
pay it and you go. But an electric car, that's not the case. And that is one of the drawbacks, and could be the only drawback of it. But still, if I had a station in my garage, or if I had a garage, I don't have one, but if I had a garage and a system that can charge my car in like 1 hour, 2 hours, I would totally get a electric car. But in this time, I would still prefer internal combustion engines. And you said, when are people gonna buy electric vehicles? When all
Yeah.
people are gonna by electric
Yeah,
vehicles.
like it's like the EVs are going to be trend.
Yes, EV is actually a trend, but it's like Apple. It's like Nike. It's like Adidas. Uh,
Yeah.
but they're still not in a state as Mercedes, for example. They're
Yeah.
not in that state, and when they're gonna be in that state, as we mentioned, these companies, these EV companies, are really young. Like, let's say max would be 20 years or so.
Yeah.
When we get 2050 or 2070, I don't know, maybe then the electric vehicles would be considered as normal, and maybe those childs wouldn't even know what an internal combustion engine is, what diesel is, what gasoline is. But in the near future, in 10 years or 15 years, I don't think we're gonna see internal combustion engines die. I don't think we're gonna see them. Yes, there are limitations for especially diesel engines in Europe. For example, in I think Berlin, the government says the diesel engines cannot be in the city center. That's
Wow.
really
It's really
good,
strict.
really good thought, because you don't wanna disturb the people in the city center. They're all that's the place where all the tourists are. That's where all the sellers are. That's where all the action going on in the city. But still, I don't think Germany or any other country will say no. You can't develop diesel engines. I think there's a lot of time for this,
Yeah.
because internal combustion engines, I will refer to them as IC engines. IC
Okay.
engines are really old and really well established, really well known, and all the classics like 50s cars, 60s cars, 70s cars, they all have IC engines. There's a legacy behind that.
Yeah.
So it's a really harsh decision for car manufacturers uh, to take. You know,
But I think
it's
we can just give them some decades to develop their system. Like for example, it could be decreasing the time that is that is going to take while you charge the car. For example, for now you
yes,
said
technologies will develop. Surely, technologies will develop.
so. I think um, it's up to people's decision, but I think it's 3 or 4 decades later. I think we'll see lots of EV cars. Like, for example, when we think about the first launch of the first car, so people, like, not everyone could possibly purchase it, but then it's like, for example, I don't exactly know, but after 50 or 100 years, it is really like every single person has a car. So
Yes,
if
and the
we
cars are well
take
known,
that,
and in that times, 50
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, of
100
course.
years later, the people know it, people are used to it, and people are transporting with their cars, and that's
So in
considered
time,
normal.
people get used to it.
Yes, and in electric cars, I think the case will be the same, but the time will be, you know, actually time is relevant. You know, oh, that's like
Yeah.
Einstein quote. I like that. Time is relevant. Um, the governments are really harsh about this, as I mentioned, like the example of Berlin.
Yeah.
But we gotta think about another topic. The, for example, in Turkey, if you're not wealthy, not rich, you buy a car that you can sell, because if you cannot sell the car that you purchased, that you bought, it will be meaningless. It will be useless. Just
Yeah.
buying it, and it like sticks
And it's
onto you,
gone,
and
like
uh,
worth nothing.
yes, and in electric cars, the development of the industry is really slow right now, and people still don't want to buy a car that they can sell. You buy a Tesla. Tesla is, especially in Turkey, are at premium prices. Like you could buy a Mercedes E-Class instead of buying a Tesla Model S.
Yeah.
The prices are really high, and the prices really should drop, or people will not buy.
Yeah, it'll of course take time to normalize the price, the like let's say EV stations
Mm-hmm.
all across the countries and blah blah. So
Yes.
like in a few decades, I think it'll be more common for the
Yes.
people.
I think 40 years later, our childs won't even know what a internal combustion engine is. That
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
granddad, what is that? What? You saying cars?
Why did you
Cars
say
had
that?
sounds? Cars had exhaust? What is the exhaust? Come on. And we'll be like, yeah, son.
Yes,
we got
son. We
we
used
got
to have our
cars.
cars, and it was like really noisy, and
Yes.
people really liked it. And then my son's gonna, Dad, what are you saying?
Yes.
Like they'll be
But
shocked.
think about that in a Tennessee accent. We had cars that were noisy, and you had transmission. It had a stick shift. You gotta shift like there's pedals, a clutch, a brake pedal. You gotta shift it. It's manual. The conversation like this gonna certainly be real in like 40 years.
Yeah, in
I'm
40
so
years
sure
we'll see
about that. Yes. I'm seeing.
So Zahid, thank you for today, and it was really
Yes, we're closing into
informative
1 hour
for
now.
me. Yeah, okay. So you got anything to add?
What can I add? If you're a petrol
Maybe just little spoiler for the next episode, or
Oh, all right. So guys, if you're petrol heads, stay tuned, and if you're tech heads, stay tuned. And if you wanna be the Neil Armstrong, when we're at first grade, we are all thinking about that. We're gonna be in the space. We're gonna be in the moon. We're gonna be in the Mars. Stay tuned. Thanks for having me, Asad.
it was really great pleasure, bro.
All right. So we're finishing it up.
Yeah, we're done.
All right. Bye, guys.